All right, guys, we have a lot. We have a lot to unpack today. I've been on hiatus for a minute, busy at work, but I'm back. We'll be more consistent with this. If you don't mind, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. All right, today we're going over Texas Board of Education. The vote, that one is going to be fun to get into. If you have anything to do and care anything at all about Republican politics and Christianity and mixing those two things together, then pay attention, because this is as close as it gets to those two things being intertwined. Temporary protected status with the Supreme Court, Trump and gas prices, Iran, of course. I want to talk about Vance and 2028, what's about to happen, in my opinion. I want to talk also about the communistic movement from the left and how that's becoming a more prevalent thing and how I think that's idiotic. The SAVE Act is going to be paramount. And I also want to get into discussion on the Supreme Court's decision today on mail-in ballots. All right, so here we go. First of all, my priority, number one, above all else, always, is going to be towards conservative politics. It just is. It's who I am. If you don't like that, then I'm not the channel for you to watch. Moreover than that, I'm always constantly monitoring how it's going to impact electability and long-term ramifications to elections, because at the end of the day, we can all squabble about day-to-day drama, but if you can't win elections, then it's pointless. You can have all the outrage in the world, you can have all the problems with the current administration in the world, you can have all the drama, and it doesn't matter. If you can't win elections and put points on the board, then it's irrelevant, okay? This ruling, and if, for those of you who don't know, the Texas State Board of Education voted to allow biblical teaching and reading as part of their curriculum in public schools. Now, there's two very, very different sides to this, and both have to be weighed very carefully. Number one, as a small government conservative, I'm not going to lie, it concerns me. It just does, straight up. I think it opens the door to a very dangerous, slippery slope, and it exposes a precedence, that's the word I'm going to use, expose, for liberals and radical ideologies on the left down the road whenever they're back in control in other states. Probably not Texas. Side note, I get so sick and tired of everybody talking about Texas being in play every single election cycle. It's not. It's just not. If you don't believe me, go look at the last 5 elections with the popular vote, number 1 and number 2. They just passed biblical teaching in public schools. The state is safe from a conservative perspective. We don't have to worry about Texas anytime soon. All right. As a conservative, it worries me because I'm always worried about precedents, right? Case in point, who's to stop a state like Michigan, who has a significant Muslim population? It's not the highest in the United States. New Jersey has the highest concentration of Muslim population from a religious standpoint out of its per capita in the state, or in the country. But Michigan has a very, very intense Muslim population in Dearborn, Michigan. And if you don't know anything about that, just go Google it. Very, very real chance. It's going to take time, but based on birth rates, it's just math. Michigan will probably become a significant Arab Muslim state, at least a major voting bloc over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, and plus years, right? Who's to say that their state, because of what Texas is passing, cannot mandate, at least in their districts and or the entire state, if they have that kind of control, we're mandating the reading of the Quran in the school. Y'all understand what I'm talking about, okay? By Christianity forcing this issue, I'm going to get into the Christian argument here in a second, but from a conservative politics perspective and and somebody who's a little bit more reserved and a little bit more, let's just pump the brakes a little bit, it's concerning. It's concerning. Which is something that we're going to have to deal with, and that's just the cost of doing business, I guess, because Texas is steaming full speed ahead. All right. As a Christian, and this is really what I wanted to talk about, as a Christian, and if you are a believer like myself, I wear that on my sleeve. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Nobody's mandating everybody converts to Christianity. Nobody said that. Or just requiring the reading of biblical text. What that text is, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Here's my argument as a Christian in the modern world that we're living in the midst of this wild wild world. Everybody else fights with both hands, but requires Christianity to fight with one hand tied behind our back. Straight up. Liberalism is a religion. Liberalism is a religion. In the absence, everybody has a religion, whether they know it or not. Even atheism. Don't believe in God. They're going to have a cause. There's going to be something bigger than them. I'm not going to get into the atheistic versus Christianity debate. That's not what this video is about. What I am talking about, though, is that in this public sphere, Christianity has been relegated to second-class status. We've been told over and over and over again to sit down and shut up. And I just want to encourage anybody who's watching this video that it's okay to say no. I'm not interested, from a Christian perspective, I'm not interested in equity or equality. I'm not. I'm interested in getting the gospel out. That's what I'm mandated to do. That's what you're mandated to do. That's what we are collectively as believers are required to do, which is preach the gospel to every living thing on planet Earth. So being told to be quiet and not using political spheres of influence as a tool to do that is not something I have any interest in discussing. America is based on Christian values, straight up. There's no debating that. I mean, I guess there is, but it's very, very, very hard to refute if you go back and look at all of the founding documents and the people and how they lived their lives, and then the laws that they put into the United States Constitution. It's very, very difficult to refute that fact. That being said, I have no interest as a Christian in giving way and giving room for other discussion points. That's not what I'm called to do. Tolerance is not part of Christianity. It's not. We're called to love. They will know us by our love. But giving an equally opportunistic viewpoint and sphere of discussion for name it. It's not in the book. Not in the book. From a political perspective, separation of church and state does not exist in the Constitution. Do I believe that Christianity should become the state-mandated religion of the United States? No. And that's what the First Amendment protects against. Straight up. The Establishment Clause says it shall have no establishment of religion. And I'm not a constitutional scholar to be able to define exactly what establishing means, but we have rulings, and we have measures, and we have reasonability. But the United States has been an incubator for Christianity for 250 years. Coming up on Saturday, July 4th, 250 years, the United States of America has been a place for Christianity to where we can worship freely, we can state our opinions, we can believe the way that we believe without molestation. That's a strong word, but without interference. And as long as the United States government aids and abets and gives preferential treatment to Christianity, then the party will continue. The moment that the United States turns its back on Christianity is the moment that this country ceases to thrive. That's just the way I feel. And I think a lot of people do too. And if you're watching this, I want to encourage you that it's okay to believe that the United States is a Christian nation first and foremost, that everybody else, if you want to believe what you believe, you're free to do so. But we are Christians here first, above all else. Don't let anybody tell you different. And again, if the United States wants to continue, the government specifically wants to continue reaping the benefits of having Christianity be the main hub here and enjoying all the benefits that come with that, then the party will continue as stated, as we have been having for a long time. Is America perfect? No. But there's no doubt about it that we are the champion of Christianity and we project Christian values across the rest of this planet. And as long as that stays number one, and God we trust is on the dollar bill, guys, as long as those things stay in line, things will stay good here. The moment that we start replacing that and replacing it with what is the next question is when things start to go off the tracks rapidly. And I do mean rapidly. If you don't think that they are not testing the fences, and this is what I was talking about with fighting with one hand behind your back, don't let people limit your argument to church and state and keeping it separate, because that is the founding fathers put in these clauses to protect the church from the state, not the state from the church. The founding fathers, I'm going to say that again, put the protections in place to guarantee that the state could not interfere with the church, not that the church and the body of Christ could not interfere with the state. Am I a Christian nationalist? No. Christianity is superior to the United States of America, to our president. Trump is not Jesus, and everybody on my side of the camp needs to stop looking at him that way. We'll go into that again. But again, if you want to stop, then these debates stop being held to one line of argument, because it's just not the way that it's going to work here in the United States, and that's not the way that's been for a long time. If you don't think that I'm wrong, if you think that I'm wrong and that the current administration or that the current government style that we have, or that this federal government that we have is not antagonistic to Christians, then I would point you to the fact that they turned Easter Sunday in 2024 under the previous administration into Transnational Awareness Day. And I don't want to get off into trans rights and social rights and all of those things, even though I believe that being trans and being a Christian are diametrically opposed. Those two things are not tenable. They are not reconcilable. You cannot claim to be a child of God and then change your whole thing. Again, I could talk about that for another half an hour, which I'm not going to. But the United States of America was built on aiding and abetting and allowing the Christian faith to thrive. And as soon as you start to take that out of the equation, things get off the tracks, as we've seen in several liberal states. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. All right. Temporary protected status is the next thing up. Not nearly as big of a deal, in my opinion. It is to a lot of people, but not in my opinion. Temporary protected status means temporary. Supreme Court ruled that the United States can limit. What's been happening is people were coming into the United States seeking asylum, applying for asylum from our side of the fence, not their side of the fence, under the temporary protection clause, and then they just never come up for a court date. It is just temporary in perpetuity. It never ends. Temporary means temporary. And so Stephen Miller got up and talked about it, and he said, that's no problem. If you guys want to apply for asylum here in the United States, you can do it from your country, or if you can't do it from your country because you're truly persecuted, then we found other countries where we can put you in temporarily until your asylum request is processed here in the United States. This is not a complicated issue. It's just not. I'm all for helping people. I'm all for giving people the citizenship in this country if we are truly a benevolent country. If you don't believe that, then you have your facts wrong. That's just the amount of aid and help that we give people in countries overseas is truly astounding. So temporary means temporary. I don't know how else to say that. All right. I think Trump made a good point last week when he was talking about the oil prices and the gas companies price gouging, which I would have liked to have seen the liberal media or the press or people, leadership in Congress on the left, come out and give Trump a round of applause, because oil and gas companies specifically vote for Republicans every single time. They are hard and fast conservative voters, at least supporters financially. And Trump came out and said the oil prices, between the strategic reserves, the stuff in Iran is cooling off, the price of oil per barrel is down at a normal level, and you guys are still charging an egregious amount of money for this stuff. And he directed the Department of Justice to go and investigate that. Why that wasn't applauded by everybody on the left proves my point that I've made it 52 times. It doesn't matter what Trump does, they're going to find something bad. They're going to find something bad. They're going to disagree. He could cure cancer, and they would complain that it wasn't AIDS. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. It's been that way since he came down the escalator. I want to talk about Vance for a second. I'm kind of all over the board today, but we've had a lot to go over. I'm trying to keep this as quick as I can. Vance is running. Clearly. He's doing the interview circuit. He did The View. He did Bill Maher. He did a couple with Fox. He is zigzagging on his base and as opposing arguments to get his name out there, because I think he's trying to separate himself from Trump a little bit. In the debates coming up in 27, going into 28, and then in the year 2028, he's going to get nailed by everybody on the left of being Trump's VP. Rubio's going to try and find his way of showing that he's his own man. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be Rubio and Vance standing. I'll be surprised if it's not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Rubio as the presidential nominee and Vance as VP again. He's done a good job. He really has. He's done a good job at VP. He stays out of the way. He's in part of the big meetings. He doesn't overshadow the ticket. I think that, I don't know that there's ever been back-to-back vice presidents under two different administrations, but I think Vance could be the right guy to do that. I really do. He's young. I think he's still got stuff to learn. I think Rubio's ready. We'll see where the donor bases land, but I think Vance going on these opposing shows and taking his beatings with Bill Maher and the women on The View is a very, very strong thing to do. I think that it's great. I really do. All right, the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is a big friggin' deal. We've been building for the SAVE Act for, really, it's been since the 2020 election, for about 6 years. And the SAVE Act is why we came to play. This puts to bed several things. Number one, new voter registration. You would be required, if they pass this law, if you are a newly registered voter or if you move states and then re-register to vote, you'd have to prove citizenship, residency, and everybody would have to show ID at the voting booth. As a Republican, I love this. I think that the left has gotten away with this kind of stuff for far too long, have abused the laws, have taken advantage of the lack of verification. And I'm not even talking about mail-in ballots, because I'm going to get to that here in a second. I'm just talking about men and women going to the polls on election day. And states that don't require ID, you have to have ID to do literally anything else in this country except vote. It's a no-brainer. This is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. 80% of Americans want it. I'm not going to lie. I used to be in the 20% because I'm always, again, going back to the beginning of my video, worried about precedents. Always. I'm worried that if you require voter ID one day in 20 years, what if it is a social score? If we have that, like China, that day's coming with AI. If you're delinquent on your taxes, they can block your ability to vote. That day may come. And I guess that's just what we're going to have to live with, because we have to get control of the voter rolls, registrations, and voting process in this country, because we all know it's out of control, simply put. Which then leads me to the Supreme Court decision today. Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts on the conservative side sided with the liberals and voted down Trump's argument and executive order banning the counting of any votes that were received after Election Day, even if they were postmarked before Election Day. This gets into the weeds just a little bit, but stay with me. If you are, let's just say it's a simple, clean, honest procedure. If you are in the military and you're overseas, as long as your mail-in ballot is postmarked and verified, you have to have a witness signature on the day of election or before. As long as those two things are there, then your vote counts even if it's received after Election Day. That's what the Supreme Court just said. What it did put in measures, though, is that it limited it to 5 days. Can a lot of shenanigans happen in 5 days? Of course. Does it fix the liberal state stuff going on? It hems it in a little bit, but it doesn't fix it. But at the same time, I don't think that is necessarily a wrong argument to say. As long as the postmark is on by the day of election, and in addition to that, if it has a witness signature, then let's count the vote. I don't think that that's I don't think that that's a bad policy. I really don't. I don't like mail-in balloting. I don't think that it should be necessary unless in egregious circumstances, like you're in the hospital having surgery, or if you're on a military base. Those are real reasons. But I get it. If you can verify, and it is a one man, one vote, and you can verify that there is authentication of that, I can take that for the time being. Y'all don't worry. Don't worry. Just don't worry. The gerrymander laws, they have other challenges in court as it relates to the mail-in balloting, the voter ID stuff with the SAVE Act. You put all of those things in motion, and it still equates to the same thing. Over 2028 into 2030, 32, 34, 36, and beyond. This country's moving to the right. This country's moving to the right. It's plain and simple. And so it's going to be fine. Don't panic over this. Everybody on the right screaming about how bad the Supreme Court and how Justice Comey and Justice Roberts, like usual, has screwed the Republican Party. And would I have liked to see them side with Trump on this? Yeah, probably, but it also would have created an incredible amount of chaos long term, which is ultimately why they didn't vote to keep that in place. So last thing I want to talk about here, and I'm running out of time, really quickly. I want to talk about Iran. Iran is a freaking mess. I've said this before. They need to either go in and invade and fix it permanently, or they need to leave it alone. It's open, it's closed. We were negotiating, we're not. Israel did this, Iran retaliated. Trump said this, they're actually doing this. They've invited us here as of yesterday to come to the negotiation table, which is the first time they've ever extended an olive branch for us, because I think we hit more targets this weekend, if I remember correctly. And that's all fine. But they need to end this before the midterms, or it's going to ruin the momentum that we've built up to this point, in my honest opinion. So, all right, that's it. 20 minutes. Thank you guys. I appreciate anybody who listened to the entire thing. These are a lot of quick hitters. If you have any questions, comments, please Write me, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. I'd love to talk to anybody about anything. Have a good day.